I was 18 when I went to college from 1965 to 69, and I studied elementary education.
I went back to college when I was 25 years old, okay? And I went to a junior college for 2 years in Mason City, Iowa. And then I transferred to Mankato State College in Minnesota for my last 2 years. I majored in business administration and accounting. I got assigned to a group called the Military Assistance Advisory Group. We went to Vietnam and they were advisors, giving advice to the people of Vietnam about what to do in wartime, blah, blah, blah. And me and this friend of mine, we were just kind of the bag boys. We carried the bags and did what we were told to do. You got to keep in mind, I was like 19 years old at this time. So this was pretty, pretty big for me. I grew up a lot over those years, and after, I personally didn't serve as far as in combat, but I saw a lot of that growth go on and what happened and to people, and it just wasn't good.
So I started college in 1965. I graduated from high school in 1965. So I was in high school when people were deciding to go to college or the military, whatever. As a woman, I didn't have to, that was never an issue. I didn't have to worry about I didn't have to register at 18 for the draft. I never had to worry about, having to go and fight in combat or anything because women just did not do that at the time.
A lot of kids was going to college just to get out of the draft, a good portion of them. And that was kind of disturbing at the time.
ROTC, Reserve Officers Training Corps, I believe that's what it stands for, that was part of the campus. It was required for freshmen and sophomores. So all the boys, or men I knew at that time, men from college, every Wednesday would put their uniforms on and march. They'd practice marching, they'd do drills and all that kind of stuff that you just would walk by and you'd see it, so, okay, whatever. The freshman yearbook, this was 65, 66. There was pictures of marching in the homecoming parade, everybody in uniform. There at the homecoming football game, there was probably something going on the field. So in the stands, when you see the pictures of the homecoming football game, you could see, the probably juniors and seniors in their uniforms. They had a military ball every year, which was a big deal. It was a big formal dance on campus, and it was for the juniors and seniors. You had to be, the girls had to be asked to go as dates, but it was quite an event. Every year, the men went to bivouac on the weekends, so I would know that they were going away. They would tell me they were going away, and it was, camping and learning all military tactics. There was an interesting 2-page spread on. It was called War Protests Taking Sides, and so there are pictures of students holding signs, Bomb Hanoi, and things like that. That I do remember seeing the groups like sitting in front of Main Hall. I never participated, but that's the small college. I know things were going on in big universities and things like that, but you never expected that going on in a small college campus. But it was, because I was reminded of it by looking at the yearbook. There's another one that was really kind of poignant when in the faculty they showed all the faculty people in a yearbook. And they had one page, there was 3 faculty members, and it said, "Outstanding," with an exclamation point. And then the other page was all the military science professors who were in the Army. And there said, "Outstanding," which, I get the chills just saying that right now, to say, these were outstanding, but these guys had been out standing for us. The senior year was the one that really hit me. Okay, this is 1968. I graduated in 69. The yearbook dedication that year was dedicated to the ROTC. And there's a very nice paragraph of people who had served during this time. The newspaper staff had published a letter at one point, but their letter was kind of anti-ROTC, apparently. But because of financial or whatever the excuse was they were given, or they had to print, they were not allowed to put it in the yearbook. And then the last sentence was about, we think our letter had something to do with the 2-year required ROTC being eliminated from campus, which it was in the next year or two.
Initially, when the United States got involved in Vietnam, it was, pretty supportive by everybody. And then over the years, it got to be really, really ugly. The way the United States people here, with all the demonstrations and the riots that went on about not supporting the war for good reasons. Okay, because I was 19 when I went into the service, and I came from a small town, like I said, so I didn't have a big, I wasn't exposed to a lot of people and a lot of things at that time. So, and here I'm pushed into this big world that I knew nothing about, and that really got me going. What's going on in this country? What's going on in this world, and so forth. So I think I grew a lot in the almost 4 years that I spent in the military. It taught me a lot, and after I got out, I made sure that I wanted to get an education.
The awareness came when I would go home on breaks, and my parents would show me obituaries of friends that had died from high school or local people that had died in college. And that kind of hit me, that boys who I went to grade school with and high school with were no longer alive because they had enlisted in the Army. And then on TV, it was constant body counts and showing what they could show of villages getting, attacked. And that was pretty hard, but I knew I could, in this fall, I would go back to college. And I had 6 cousins at the time, between 65 and 69 when I was in school. Anybody that was over 18, my 6 cousins that went to Vietnam, or some went to Vietnam, some did not. But so that was my connection, was my cousin, one who was a helicopter pilot and evacuated the citizens or the Americans out of the embassy in Saigon, and was awarded things for that. I was fortunate, all of my 6 cousins all came back. One still has illnesses because of Agent Orange. The other 3 one was Navy, one was in Marines, and they were doing more office, or, they weren't out in combat at all. I had another cousin who went to officers candidate school after college and after working, and he was a 2nd lieutenant, and he had some very bad experiences that he would never talk about. His whole personality had changed, and he ended up committing suicide. I did have, like I said, the friends that I knew, several friends from college. Only one of them I know of that went to Vietnam and was in combat. Again, would not talk about anything when he came home. He came back home much more nervous and mistrusting of anybody. He would look over his shoulder. He told me if I was in the car with him, there's guns in the car and don't touch them because they're all loaded. Or if I was at his house later, this is later on when he had been married and with a child, he said, if you see guns, don't touch them because they're all loaded. And I was like, what is going on? Why would you have loaded guns with a child around? So I didn't have to go through it personally, but to watch, friends come back and hear about friends that didn't come back. It was the conflict in my mind during this time is, what would I have done? What would I have done if I was an 18-year-old male?
One thing that got me is how it impacted the young kids. These are 18, 19, 20-year-old kids that went over there. A lot of them got killed, and a lot of them that came back and weren't treated well at all. They just were treated terrible from, that they were Vietnam veterans. I really had a hard time with the way these young kids were treated. It just really made me angry.